Back in the 70s, board games and improv theater had a baby, and it was called the role-playing game. These games allowed a generation of kids to live out their dreams of slaying dragons and saving kingdoms, all while sitting in their bedrooms and basements. Today, gaming has moved into the cultural mainstream, and role-playing games are back with a vengeance. Join us now as 5 of these former kids come out of the basement and onto the internet to experience adventure, mystery, and obscure pop culture references. It's time for Roll for Combat!
Hey everyone, welcome to Roll for Combat. I'm your GM and host, Stephen Glicker, and in this week's special episode, we are talking with John Compton, the organized play lead developer for Paizo. For those of you who are regular listeners to our actual play podcast, John wrote Book 2 of the Dead Sun's Adventure Path, which is the Temple of the 12. And on our podcast, we literally just finished that book up last week. Now, I didn't get a chance to have John on our show while we were playing the book because it was con season and he was just too well booked up, but I was able to jump on the phone with him to get him on the show, and we talk about a wide variety of things. For those of you who listen to our show on a regular basis, the first half of the interview is what we thought of Book 2, some of the things that we encountered during Book 2, and for those of you who don't listen to our show on a regular basis, but have done Dead Sun's Book 2, The Temple of the 12, you'll definitely get something out of it because you'll hear what he thinks and how he built many of the harder encounters. And heck, even if you just like adventure paths and adventures in general, you'll probably get something out of it because he explains kind of how the adventure path was built and how some of the encounters were built and what the purpose of them was. The second half of the interview, we just talk about stuff. We talk a lot about Starfinder Society and some of the cool adventures that came out in the past and some that are coming out in the future. We talk about how the second part of Season 1 is going to unfold. We talk about Pathfinder Society. We talk about the very last adventure path that's ever going to be written, and John has written the very last book of Pathfinder version 1 ever. And we talk about that. So overall, we kind of jump all over the place. For those of you who don't know what's going on when you hear all these voices, that's everyone from our podcast. So we're all interviewing him at the same time. Again, for those of you who are brand new to this podcast, we are an actual play podcast where we're currently playing the Dead Sun's Adventure Path, and we are starting Book 3 right away. We're actually going to have a nice recap, so if you don't feel like going back and listening to the first 47 episodes, that's fine. You can start on episode number 48. We have a nice recap of everything that's happened to date, so you will be all caught up, and you can start on episode 48, or if you like what you hear, you can just start on episode 1 and catch yourself up. We also play Starfinder Society, and you can listen to those episodes, and we have actually a large mix of Paizo employees as well as other luminaries in the role-playing industry playing with us on those games as well. And finally, if you're interested in playing games with us, you can go to the Discord channel, which is discord.rollforcombat.com. The Roll for Combat Discord channel was just made an official lodge for Play by Post, or in this case, Play by Discord. And we're currently running, I think, 7 games of Pathfinder Playtest right now. But if you jump on, we're always starting new games. We have a couple of Starfinder Society games going on there. We're starting up some Pathfinder version 1 Society games, and we even have the occasional live game once in a while. So check that out. With further ado, here's our interview with John Compton. We have John Compton from Paizo, organized play lead developer, here to talk about our experiences of Book 2. And we just wanted to get you on the show and say, first, that it was a lot of fun. And I liked the chase mechanic quite a bit. I think that was my favorite part of Book 2. And even just going through the jungle and having these guys not having any way out. Like, yes, they live in sci-fi, but then you have this primeval jungle that they were totally dependent on their skills and what they could find. And the heat. I don't know if anyone else did heat the way we did, but
Nobody did.
No one did. I guarantee every other person's just ignored those rules.
Wrong.
We played every single encounter. We did the heat every single time we played. They even did the heat rules. They had one combat where two of our characters took off their armor, went naked. We're ambushed, and then Hiroji fought naked because he didn't have time to put his armor on, and still lived. It still lived. And then I hear people write to me saying that they don't know how these guys live because they're insane. So I thought it was great.
People usually completely underestimate the environment, and Starfinder definitely makes that a lot easier because you have your "we resist everything" suits, whatever, until you're out there for days upon days upon days. But yeah, those heat rules and cold rules can be a pain to do at the table. That's definitely something that we find ourselves having to kind of tweak a little bit for organized play scenarios, because otherwise you end up doing like 30 checks per person on the way to the adventure, when that is going to just spend a lot of time at the table that would be better off having an encounter.
Yep.
Yeah, we played it completely wrong. 2 of us, or 3 of us, did not even check our inventory, and we had backup suits that we could have eschewed the entire thing. And then when they realized that, oh yeah, we do have the right equipment, it made it a lot easier.
Well, that was discovered on like day 14.
Yeah, a lot easier but less fun.
Yeah.
More fun going, buck naked in the jungle.
Naked savages.
You enjoyed that a little too much, I think.
Did.
Definitely makes for better storytelling, at least.
So my big question, okay, so this is the one question. The undead elf, the guardian, when we talked to him, we came to the conclusion that we should attack him. Did anybody, what was the general, did we miss any tells that said don't attack this guy? Because he whomped us. We backed away, and then he stopped attacking. I guess he's guarding the
he's guarding the door. Yeah.
Oh, his one attack almost nearly one-shotted me, and I'm playing a guy who's the melee soldier. That was pretty crazy. Do you get feedback that guy is killed like a lot of adventurers?
Also, do keep in mind, John, that we have no magic. My
question is, what tells did we miss? Had we some, magic people, or if there was another way, how do players usually detect them, and what's the general reaction?
Most players fought him. Is the idea?
Yeah, there's a lot of things with him basically come down to fighting, and that's totally fine. His shtick is that he's the one who stayed behind in order to keep guard over this place. And when the big bad of the volume comes by and says, oh, look, there's a guardian. Oh, technically he's undead. I know command undead. Boom, you are my servant now. Then what should have been a guardian of the temple becomes one of the servitors of the main villain. The thing is, though, that if you happen to have a mystic, if you happen to have said, you know what, command undead sounds pretty good for me too, then you can recommand him and override that. You can potentially also sneak past him, although that's going to be hard. Although I understand you guys did a little bit of creative spelunking.
We did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But by and large, he's there to provide some background to what the temple is and why nobody should be allowed in, you included, the villain included, but that there are special conditions in play. He can kind of describe how he sure was ready to stop the villain from coming in too, until magic happened, and now he's not entirely in control. And he's cognizant of that.
Right. Oh, cool.
Yeah, eventually you guys did befriend him. I mean, once the big bad was killed, I mean, he became your friend and actually escorted you and checked out the temple with you. I mean, it took a while, but he actually did become your friend. So
he had to get to know us.
Yeah, the idea is that, you're almost certainly going to fight him, but hopefully you've talked to him enough that you're going to feel bad about having to do so.
Yeah, I think we had some issues with getting, we kind of failed diplomacies and things, and he was angry right away at us. It was weird. But then we did try and fight him, and then we did retreat, which was fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we didn't get So he was killable? Like he's like killable.
Right, you got to make some good rolls, John.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, well, and also other groups have healing.
Yeah, you can totally take him down.
I think we did like 20 or 30 points of damage on him before we kind of had to pull back. I mean, if we'd stuck with it, we might have won. I mean, granted, you couldn't have taken too many more hits.
Oh,
but...
yeah. I was...
Cowardice sometimes factors in.
Actually, my question with that whole storyline was, have you at Paizo and all determined like some original origin story for elves in the universe? Because there's obviously hints of, well, space elves that have been around presumably long before Galarian.
Yeah, there's definitely elves have been around before, like mainstream society in Galarian as we know it in Pathfinder, but the idea is that elves come from Castrovel. Whether they had some sort of origin before that as well, that's not really covered. But Temple of the 12 definitely pokes at the idea that elves have migrated to more than just Galarian, because the ones of Ukulam are implied to have basically headed off into the stars trying to pursue more secrets of Ibra.
Excellent.
Wow, I did not know that. That's cool.
Well, I enjoyed the elements of the fact that obviously it's like sort of long after the gap, we are discovering elves, but they are not the elves of Galarian. They're from an entirely different civilization. However, they are the same race. I mean, I like the concept of a greater storyline that's going on beyond all of this.
Yeah, and even those elves are the same elves of Galarian, give or take. The whole like Earthfall stuff happens 10,000 years before the Pathfinder timeline. The elves mostly retreat to Castrovel before they come back a couple thousand years later because they're constantly getting pinged about terrible things that are happening on their adopted home.
Yeah, why doesn't Paizo write happy stories, which with happy elves and nothing goes bad ever?
That's no fun.
Yeah, but at that point, where's the adventure in that one?
Yeah,
and we do write some happy stories. I mean, about half of the Starfinder Society scenarios are let's do something really happy, or let's do things for happy people. And then we take it down terrible rabbit holes, but up until then, everything's fine.
Let's go to a concert.
Oh gosh, everything's blowing up there. Or let's go help our friend Ziggy. Oh gosh, he has a terrible, tragic backstory. Oh.
Why is this Vesk trying to kill me?
I actually liked... Okay, so we had that 29 round combat. It wasn't a killer combat.
John, tell him which combat.
Well,
that's the reclining elf with the
I can't remember. I don't
with the assassin with the sniper
I know there
rifle.
Was the invisible thing in the sky. That was crazy. We went the long way around the elf when we got to it, and so I think that's. But the guy,
there's bad luck. Yeah, it was some bad luck there, definitely.
Yeah, but the sniper wasn't doing that much damage, and it's only one guy there. But that invisible thing. That was a little rough. Like we didn't know what to make of that.
I do wonder, is there some way we could have separated those fights and taken them on separately, or were we just idiots and happened to bleed them together?
Yeah,
we
everything
go together. You also split the party. Don't forget. So because Mo
not intentionally,
true, but Mo went north and then you guys went south, and fun started to happen at that point.
Yeah, you can totally take those fights separately. The trick is that all of those surrounding outbuildings, they have different height walls. So if you're looking at the volume itself, at the map with all the tags, there are some of them that are labeled A, there's some of them that are labeled B. One of those sets is low enough that it's only providing you a little bit of cover from the sniper, but not entirely unless you just lie down. And then others are tall enough to provide you a whole bunch of cover, even if you're standing up. So if you end up taking that Skyfisher fight into some of those taller ruins, then the sniper's not really going to get a clear shot at you.
Huh.
Well, what happened is Mo climbed up the elf, and then that's when the Skyfisher attacked him. So at that point, he was long past those buildings. So he was a sitting duck in every way.
Yeah, we gave it the bum's rush. There was not a lot of strategy, and we all ran separate. The sniper was doing what it's supposed to do: panic completely uncoordinated people, and everybody had their own plan, which was kind of funny because we didn't know exactly where to go. So,
Ah, a sniper's dream.
Yeah, I got messed up in that combat battle. I came close to dying.
Yeah.
Well, by the end, because they ended up bleeding all the encounters, by the end, you were all, except Tuttle, everyone was near death. I remember everyone was covered in red, except for Tuttle. Tuttle somehow slipped out of that with very little damage.
I was kind of dragging behind.
That's right.
I think it was because part of it was because I had to do with the drone dance over difficult terrain, so that kind of slowed me down a little bit compared to the other guys.
Oh, one question I had also is that at the end when we went to the university, all of these Philistines, of course, took the money. I went for the schooling, so I'm wondering if I get anything out of that.
I mean, that's one of those things that can lead to all sorts of great things depending upon what the GM wants to do with it. I mean, consider all the possibilities that you could get out of a xenoarchaeology and xenobiology, xenoanthropology degree.
Yes,
these
that'd
are
be
the sorts of
awesome.
things that could help you throughout the rest of the campaign if you were willing to, of course, take several months off of adventuring and then study up or access the resources. It's totally a thing where the GM can say, cool, because you chose this, because of your special education here and opportunities, you can access this feat, or you have access to this array of equipment, you have access to these class options.
Steve, get cracking on that.
Actually, I'm already doing it because you started when they were on the ship and they were spending like 2 weeks in travel. Hiroji was already starting his
online courses.
Online courses. So if he decided to not, I already said I was, and you are taking xenoarchaeology as your major. So
and my theme is Xeno Seeker. Like that's
right.
part of my theme, and I'm no dunce. Like I'm actually, as an operative, even I have a 14 intelligence. That's not bad.
Yeah.
So I think there's some really good potential there, especially some of the later adventures that are coming up.
Yeah, no, he's going to be rewarded. You're going to be rewarded by not taking the money, definitely.
Nice.
So wait, Jason, do you want to talk about your adventures with Cheddar since he built him? Because you built him at level 2, and now he's up to level 5.
Well, yeah. First of all, you shamed me into using the button more since PaizoCon. I'd like to point that out. I kind of warmed to the idea that most of the effects that we've hit so far have been like mildly positive buffs, so I've been a little more free. And I was always worried it was going to be like the portable black hole and everyone within 30 feet was going to die. And once I kind of got over the squeamishness and realized that I didn't want to like TPK us using the button, but once I realized it was kind of mostly like minor benign effects, I started using it more. So we've had some fun with that. In terms of what new stuff, I don't know. We have entered a bold new era in that Cheddar now has a riding saddle. So there will be the sort of Napoleon Bonaparte on horseback painting of Tuttle riding Cheddar into battle will have to be commissioned. So that's going to be kind of that. We started playing around with that a little bit as well. So haven't really upgraded any of his weapons yet. That's going to probably be on the horizon somewhere, but.
I was looking at some of the recent pictures, and it looks like, despite gaining yet more decals and the like, he still has some sort of like club with a rock stuck in it.
Yeah, he's still on the tactical razor bat or whatever as his primary weapon. So, and the junk cannon. So we've used the chainsaw wings a little bit. He did get one particularly messy crit that was exciting. So,
the lesson is hit the button.
The lesson is hit the button. Yeah,
hit the button more. Yes.
I thought it was going to be a panic button, like the very last, desperate type of thing, something like that.
But. And we did get the song. We got the song fairly early on, so that was kind of exciting. The one where the disco ball comes out and he starts playing the music and it's like inspire. He gives everyone like a +1 inspiration buff. We got that one, so that was exciting.
Yeah, I mean, most of what he does is positive. There are a couple of negative things in there. But they shouldn't be the ones that kill the entire party.
I don't think we've had like the true critical fail, critical success table. I think we had one critical success, but the guy was already so low on health that it didn't particularly matter. and it would have killed him anyways. But then I don't think we've rolled a 1. I don't think we've had a critical
Have
failure
we had
yet.
any negatives so far? I don't think
You
we
actually
have.
you did roll a 1, and it's the only time. So in all these episodes, I don't know how it's happened, because we've had episodes where Hiroji rolls 3 1s in a row, but Cheddar rolled 1 in like 45 episodes. And because it's so rare, I just totally forgot to do the table. So yeah, it just never comes up. It's kind of amazing, actually. It's like the odds
which means we've just jinxed it, and I'm probably gonna roll like 3 1s next time we play.
Yeah.
As long as it's not me rolling once, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, Hiroji's actually happy. Chris is stoked about that.
So real quick, also, let's talk a little bit about our society, since John is in charge of it. We did play a couple of society games, and for most of us, this was brand new, and they loved it. These guys loved playing society.
Yes.
Which adventures?
Yeah, very fun.
Which adventures?
Well, John's in charge of all of them, but we did 1-10. That was the Half Alive Streets. Remember that one?
Oh,
We did
yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And then we
And
did.
then the one aboard the spaceship.
Yep.
Cries from the Drift.
Yep.
Yes.
Cries.
Cries.
I was drawing a blank on the name, but yeah, Cries from the Drift. And then
Yeah, you guys chose some doozies.
That wasn't an accident. I picked those because we love space horror.
Those are the ones where it's all just, let's see how nice it starts out, and then things got worse. Oh gosh, it's even worse. Oh geez, it's coming out of him.
yeah, well, Steve's got a thing for horror. Actually, I mean, all of us do to varying degrees, but Steve in particular has a thing for like the horror themed ones. So,
well, we also did the Red Planet, and the that one we did with Linda and Mark from Paizo, and you've heard of that. It hasn't aired yet. I have to still edit it. That one's a doozy as well.
I do understand that Mark made a choice. That impacted a lot of people.
Mark went off the rails. Mark seems like a very nice, normal, probably neutral good in real life, but he went totally evil. I wouldn't say evil, but chaotic, neutral in his new character. And oh boy, things happen.
I don't want to speak of that episode just because that was the night of like horrendous dice rolling. I think I rolled like almost all single numbers.
Yeah.
Wait,
was that the night that someone spent the whole time trying to pick a lock that we couldn't pick?
No, that was Half Alive Streets.
Oh yeah.
That was
Rob Tremarco doing trying to pick.
That was right.
Lock.
That was Rob trying to pick the lock to the back door while the entire party is being viciously attacked by a horde of zombies, and he's failing roll after roll after roll after roll. Meanwhile, everyone's screaming and yelling. I really like these society adventures. I have to tell you, they really let you try some crazy situations.
Yeah, and importantly, they let you try those crazy situations with a rotating cast of people too.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually never done any society with the same crew. I mean, that's sort of the point, is that we've done all of our adventures with new people.
I do have one regret, is that PaizoCon I played the one where you do the race, like there's a race and you have to like soup up the car and the whole thing. And one of the aspects of that was going to wait in line to get the new album from those that rock band whose name I forget, but I bummed that I didn't do that. Like everyone chose to do that. I'm like, nah, I don't like waiting in line. So I'm not.
Everybody goes to get Star Sugar Heart Love by Strawberry Machine Cake.
That's right. I didn't do it.
The line was too long.
It was too long. I was like, no, I don't do line. Sorry, I'm not doing it.
Well, don't worry. It's not like that comes up in like 2 or 3 more in the society. But, wait a second, it does. That's right.
That's what I've heard, and I'm regretting now. I had already waited on a real line to get dice, and I was like, nah, no more lines.
John, are you working on anything exciting now that you can talk about, or is it pretty hush-hush still?
I mean, there are several things that I'm working on that I can't yet talk about, but there's at least one that I can largely acknowledge, even if the details are still kind of vague as far as public goes. So we have our last adventure path that was announced at PaizoCon for the first edition of Pathfinder, which is Tyrant's Grasp. Effectively, the PCs are there to hopefully stop the Whispering Tyrant from awakening on the I was confused at Isle of Dread, not Isle of Terror. And I will be doing the last of those adventures. So I'm working on the last AP and the last volume of the AP for first edition, which should be a
Wow.
good fun time.
Wow. So is that boss monster? Like
It was all a dream sequence.
What, all of the edition?
All of Pathfinder version 1. It was all a dream. We don't know.
There are certainly some surprises in there coming up, and then there are plenty of other things that are coming up for the tail end of first edition that we're really excited about, because a lot of the meetings have been like, okay, we could do another book that's like, fighter people of Avestan, woohoo! Or we could do, well, why don't we all just have an opportunity to do X, Y, or Z? Or what have you always wanted to get into print? Oh, really? Okay, then. Sort of stuff.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, we played Karen Crown. So, yeah, we know all about Tar Bafan. So, yeah, we hope the Whispering Tyrant breaks free and then kills everyone. And then, start Pathfinder. That's, in fact, I don't know what you're complaining about writing the last book. It's really easy. He breaks free, everyone dies, the end. Here's Pathfinder 2. It's going to be a really short book.
On the other side of the globe.
Yeah.
I imagine also you could all take extra vacation time this year if you did it that way.
I could, but I mean, all these writing projects are things that I do in my off time. So I work the however many hours per day, and then afterward I stay at the computer and keep writing.
So I suppose the two word the end, everyone dies. Yeah, okay. Well,
You put the Fin, Fin, and then a question mark.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that is one way to push people in second edition. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I like second edition.
Yeah, I mean, we did a big review of it and we played it a fair amount, and we like it a lot. I mean, I really love the action economy, and I like no attacks of opportunity, so everyone's running around like they're chickens with their head cut off on the battlefield. It's very fast, very fluid. You do need big battle maps now, though, because people really move, which is different than the old ones where everyone stands still and no one goes anywhere.
Yeah, that's always one of the challenges in doing society stuff in particular, is picking out maps where you're going to have enough space for all 6 people at the presumed table, and their size large animal companion, the guy who's mounted on a horse, plus the huge thing that they're fighting. And in the end, you end up having, like -5 squares left over.
That's right.
Getting enough space for those can be a bit of a challenge on the flip mats, but there are a bunch of them of late that I've been really impressed with.
So what should we expect for season 2, or is it season 1A, for Starfinder Society? Because you didn't really end it. You just sort of having it continue for Starfinder Society. So is it actually season 2 that's going to be starting next year, or is it how is that going to be labeled? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so in the past we've done a launch of a new season at Gen Con, so early August every year. Now that Starfinder Society is really in the full swing of things, with 2 scenarios per month, what we're doing instead is we are launching new seasons at Origins. But because Starfinder Society had started with 1 scenario per month for a while, and it had taken a little while to ramp up, we determined that there was so much more to the story that we wanted to tell for season 1 before we moved on to something else, that we extended it out. So it will become season 2 at Origins, so mid-June in 2019. So we're kind of in season 1 extended at this point. There's a lot of cool stuff coming up, though. So we had our first multi-table interactive for Starfinder Society, and that was at Origins. We did it again at Gen Con, in which you go back to the Scoured Stars. You're hopefully there to rescue a whole bunch of Starfinders, and naturally hijinks ensue. And by hijinks, I mean terrible, epic, grand things that show up on the screen. And then we have a whole bunch of follow-up to that, because there are developments in 199, that special, as well as in some of the other scenarios that we've had leading up to that time, which are based on those events within the Scoured Stars and the discoveries that we've made within it. And so we're going to be following up on a whole bunch of those. We're going to be dealing with some interesting faction leader storylines. We're going to be really investigating what the leadership of the Starfinder Society looks like, as well as even some of the details of the Lore Spire complex on Absalom Station, things like that. really fun stories. Thurston Hillman has been really taking the lead on the vast majority of these outlines, even if we plan them together, and has some really cool stories in stow.
Is there somebody's story that, or somebody's adventure that you could pick out and say, this is the thing that you're excited about the most? Can you pick your favorite child, or something someone else did?
I guess are you thinking looking ahead, or things that have been
looking
done
ahead.
already?
No, looking ahead. Like just
I
things
wanna
that you
both
hear down
forward
the
and
pipe.
back.
Huh?
I want to hear forward and back. I'm curious.
All right.
Steven,
Well,
I want to hear both.
talking about forward. We
Yeah,
can
yeah.
start with back actually, and then forward. But just something that you're most excited about that nobody outside of development knows about. No spoilers, of course.
So looking back, there are a whole bunch of really fun adventures. Some of the ones that really stick out, though, are the ones that have just gone beyond our expectations as far as fan response goes. There is one adventure that has come out with what is dubbed the psychedelic walruses. You've probably seen those at certain conventions because they have gotten a remarkable fan following. I've been really pleased with how the adventures that have Zoe in them have turned out. He's an undead mogul all about promoting entertainment, some of it being bloodsport.
Oh, we know Zoe.
Yeah,
Excellent,
we know
good.
him very well.
Good. And then Strawberry Machine Cake and Star Sugar Heart Love, that also has a huge following. Also, saving the Rencrotas is a very important thing to do. It started as a bit of a joke between Thirsty and me when we were thinking of like, what sort of social event could we do? Like, we don't want to do a wedding or a funeral or anything like that. We should have a gala of some form. We should have a benefit of some form. What do we want to do? Hey, remember that Save the Whales movement? We should do that, but we should choose one of the existing alien animals that we have and just run with it. So there is a Save the Rencrotas benefit gala on Ukulam partway through season 1, and it's the sort of thing where you're going to ask again, why can't we ever have happy stories?
Well, you guys actually fought and killed those things in Ukulam, so your society characters can save them, while your Dead Sons characters killed them horribly.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
Hey, that's an alternate universe in the multiverse.
Yeah.
So they don't impact each other.
Or at least they don't have to. I mean, you can always make your characters tie into each other in some way or another, but probably better to have them separate.
So what about coming up that you're allowed to talk about?
I mean, allowed to talk about is something that, to an extent, I define. But so we have a bunch of different things that are coming up in one way or another, and Thirsty and I really like coming up with these situations where you are getting to do something, but you have to make choices, or you get to do something really cool, but there are consequences of having done it. One of the things that really drives me is really any opportunity to include my archaeology background. And one of them has been in season 10 of Pathfinder Society. We sure are doing a whole bunch of salvage archaeology because the place where all these things exist is gradually collapsing. So get in, study, get out. But for Starfinder Society, we have the implications of like, what happens when you go into a place which is going to be a salvage operation, but it's because you're entering an escalating war zone. And what happens when you, as a neutral party, go in there as warm-blooded, warm-bodied individuals, showing up on both sides' infrared cameras, and you really only have the agreement of one side to even be there in the first place.
That's funny.
Consequences like that, where you're playing with it's not even geopolitics, it's the like cosmic politics, but still trying to do your Starfinder job, are really fascinating to me.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So which do you prefer working on, Starfinder Society or Pathfinder Society? Or you're not allowed to do that?
Yeah, I mean, they both have their virtues. Pathfinder Society is really nice just because we have so much canon to play with. We have such an excited following that have been following all these stories for so many years. And we have so much more campaign setting content out there. So when we say, we want to hold an adventure in this place. We probably have an entire book about that place already, so we have so many possible hooks to follow up on. But that's also part of what makes Starfinder Society so much fun, is that we're not just looking around at an inner sea region that has 40 countries or so and saying, okay, which of these are we doing things with? We have not only the existing setting, but we can just invent a planet at any moment and say, we're doing a story about this thing now. And there's room for it in there. So the possibilities of Starfinder are some of the most intriguing and gripping ones, in that we just get to invent what we need and then see what sticks with the audience. And if they really like something, we get to follow up on it more and more.
I always thought that was kind of like the Doctor Who model, that like sci-fi can be as expansive as you need it to be. It's like you need to do something with XYZ planet where everyone is, amalgam of the Old West. Here you go. Have fun with it. I mean, it's just, I think that's kind of a cool thing about the sci-fi setting, that swords and sorcery is kind of, in a certain path at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, on top of that, like both fantasy and sci-fi have a huge host of tropes that you get to draw upon. And we certainly do that for both of these, but sci-fi also has all of just modern culture that we get to draw upon. So in the case of one of our scenarios, it sure is a reality TV show. It's not the standard reality TV show, but it's a reality TV show, and you get to go through all of those steps and basically throw each other under a bus by talking smack about each other, stuff like that. But that's something we could never do in a fantasy setting. But sci-fi and Starfinder Society really lets it happen. So we get to keep on riffing on these things.
We like Starfinder a lot, basically for these very much reasons, that we love fantasy and traditional Pathfinder, but it's not limited, but it is within this very limited genre. While this is any genre. I mean, you can even have fantasy in a sci-fi universe, and it would make sense. And we've seen the Old West, like the 1-2, that was kind of like a Western. And we have sci-fi horror, and we have game shows, and we have concerts. It's like you can do anything in sci-fi, and it kind of makes sense. Again, using the Doctor Who model.
Yeah, and definitely early on in designing Starfinder Society and coming up with what we wanted to have happen in some of our early adventures, it was, okay, yes, people are going to want completely unique storylines, but on the other hand, people are going to want to show up in those first couple of months and say, I want to play this classic adventure using your new system. I want to go on the bug hunt. I want to be able to have the first contact scenario. I want to be able to, play Cowboy Bebop for a couple of hours, stuff like that. Okay, let's make that happen. And then we have the capacity and we have the room to play with storyline wise once we've gotten some of those out of the way, to do a little bit more of them if we want, or to tell something completely different as we go. But we wanted to make sure that we scratched the itches of those various tropes really early on, just to show what the system could do.
Cool. So do you guys have any other quick questions for John before we wrap this up about, anything Starfinder Society?
Did it have to be so much difficult terrain? No.
It's a jungle. It's a subtropical rainforest. So yes.
I took the feat that allows me to ignore 20 feet of difficulty.
Boy, doesn't that feel good? Isn't it great to be rewarded for those niche character choices?
In general, we're becoming experts on solving the last problem we faced.
Yeah.
Like we get smacked around by XYZ, so we buy a bunch of equipment to deal with XYZ, and then something new happens. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's so great the term difficult terrain doesn't show up for another 2 volumes.
It's
showed up in this one.
Yeah.
Showed up. We just played tonight where it was a factor. Yeah. So it's a good. I think I took a mobility feat as well.
I'm just riding around on cheddar. That solves my problem.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, it's good talking to you, though.
Well, yeah, real quick, I will say, John, that you seriously scarred these guys, because when they went from level 4 to level 5, everything they all took from level 5 was directly in relationship to nightmarish fights that they had in your book. All of them. So congratulations, you did it.
Oh, melts an evil writer's heart.
Now you know you're doing your job. Yeah, you're definitely doing your job.
Well, plenty more where that came from.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks, John, for joining us.
Yeah,
on
thanks
this.
for making these adventures too.
Yeah, and we stopped Society for a little while just because you had this other thing called Pathfinder Playtest and Gen Con and Paizo Con, and there's only so much we can play in our life. I definitely want to get back to the Society. Also, it's nice because when you do play Adventure Path, as much fun as it is, you do get kind of, I wouldn't say bored, but you do play the same character for a year. You do want to try out new things, especially with the new system. So the nicest thing is that you can try out new characters, and I can try out new settings and new adventure types, which is why I keep choosing those horror adventures, because I like them.
The great thing is you can keep on trying different things. We keep on doing the same thing, but in concept.
In concept. Well, until Signals of Screams comes out, I'm stuck just, with the ones that you give me. And, just because they were absolutely horrid and they had almost no chance of winning, had nothing whatsoever in doing that. And then I don't feel bad at all killing off all the Society characters because they could just make new ones. That's the best part.
Well, also for our format where we play like 3 hours a week, and an adventure path takes a couple months to get through. One book of an adventure path takes a couple months to get through, whereas you can do a Society game in maybe 2 sessions, sometimes even 1 if you're moving fast. I mean, the payoffs, both just in terms of story and loot, come a lot faster in Society, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to just play a couple times and then be done until you're ready to play again, as opposed to that ongoing commitment.
Oh, and one other thing, that the Roll for Combat Discord channel was named a lodge for play by post, but I think we're calling it play by Discord, and we're actually even in part of Game Day right now. So we have been working closely with Hillary Moon Murphy, and we have something like 7 tables running right now of play by post. So it's been very active at the Roll for Combat Discord channel.
Excellent. Yeah, that is a whole bunch of simultaneous tables.
Yeah, so if anyone is interested, do check out just discord.rollforcombat.com. And we got everything going. We got Starfinder, we got Pathfinder Playtest. We even have, although it's not directly related because we're officially a house for play by post, but some people want live games, so we're throwing those in there. And anything that's Society related, we have in there. So, all right. Well, thanks again, John, for joining us. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again in the near future.
Yeah, it's been a good time, and I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the adventure.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, except they all lived. Except for that,
it took place on my homeworld, so I loved it. I get to hunt many things.
Is it a bug planet?
No, stop with the bug planet thing.
Soon, give it time. Soon, you'll have your bug planet.
Hey everyone, Steve here. So thanks again, John, for joining us. I'm sure we'll have you on the show yet again. He actually was on the show back in January, so he's becoming a semi-regular. We'll have him on every 6 months or so, catch up what's going on in the world of Starfinder and Pathfinder Society, as well as the world of Starfinder and Pathfinder in general. Also, as we mentioned before, if you want to check out some Starfinder or Pathfinder Society games, you can play with us directly. Just go to discord.rollforcombat.com. You can check out our Discord channel, where if you just want to talk about the games, we do that. If you want to play, you can come play with us. There's a whole bunch of things going on in that Discord channel. For those of you who like these interviews, I have several more coming up. I recorded a couple at Gen Con, and those are in the can. Just got to work on them and process them and post them. So do check out this channel, do subscribe, do like us, and you will be informed when those new interviews go up. Otherwise, do check out our Actual Play podcast. Once again, you can start with episode number 48, where we are starting book 3 of the Dead Sons Adventure Path, and we have a complete recap of everything that happened in book 1 and book 2, if you want to get caught up, so you won't feel like you missed out anything. Or if you want, you can just start from episode 1 and listen to them all the way up to where we are now. Totally up to you. Otherwise, do check out the Roll for Combat page as well. We have interviews, reviews. We have a weekly column called Talking Combat where we talk about our show every week, as well as general tips and tricks on running and playing role-playing games. Plus, on the Roll for Combat Actual Play podcast, I have a weekly segment in where I give PC and GM tips, and these are usable for pretty much any game system, not just Starfinder or Pathfinder, any role-playing game that you play, and we cover it all from GM tips to PC tips to just game mastering tips to how to play online, how to play in person, you name it. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me here at the show. I've been GMing for 41 years. I have a fair amount of experience and have probably seen and done everything and then some. Otherwise, thanks for joining us. Do stay in touch with us if you want to listen to more interviews, and I'll talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to Roll for Combat, a Starfinder Actual Play podcast. If you have a question or comment for the show, please visit us at rollforcombat.com or drop us a line at contact@rollforcombat.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and other social media platforms. You've been listening to Roll for Combat. Until next week, always remember, it's an ugly planet, a bug planet.